Reading with your kids.
Hola, ni hao, konnichiwa, assalamu alaikum, shalom, mahaba, cha, bonjour, namaste, jumbo. Bienvenidos. Hey, my name is Jadley. This is Reading with Your Kids. We are beaming out to you in the entire universe from the beautiful, book-loving neighborhood of Reedville, the loveliest neighborhood in all of Boston. We are so very delighted and absolutely honored that you're joining us in our mission to help all families grow closer through reading. We do that by sharing fun, thoughtful, and thought-provoking conversations with fascinating people who just happen to be writing books for kids of all ages. You can join us in our mission by telling all of your family and friends about the show and letting them know that they can hear us on the WREB AM/FM 24/7 radio network. And they can find us on the iHeartRadio app, on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Good Pods, Podcast Addict, YouTube. Wherever you find your favorite shows, you can find Reading with Your Kids. We have a really fascinating episode for you today. First up, Sharon McMahon will be here to celebrate her new picture book. It's called We Are Mighty. Later in the show, we take a listen back to a conversation we had with Monzi Vigesna, celebrating Maya's Little Warriors. This episode of Reading with Your Kids is brought to you by Fart Boy and Reeky Dog, Dino Doom. Fantastic new graphic novel written by New York Times bestselling author Joan Holub, who's written over 200 amazing books for kids. It's school sleepover at the museum. What could go wrong? Well, how about this? A snack-fueled explosion of garbanzo beans and peanuts unleashes a stink so powerful it brings the dinosaurs back to life. Now, Fart Boy, Reeky Dog, and their friends are in the middle of a dino-sized disaster. They have to solve tricky riddles, find missing bones, and stop the stinkiest villain of all, Professor Gravy Pants. Because if they don't, the dinosaurs could take over. Or worse, they could become Dino Dinner. This action-packed graphic novel is bursting with friendships, adventure, and enough laughs to shake the museum walls. If your kids love superheroes, if they love dinosaurs, and if they love to laugh until they can't breathe, then Fart Boy and Reeky Dog Dino Doom is the book for you. Because sometimes the power to save the world comes from the unlikeliest place. Grab your copy today and get ready for a reading adventure that's truly dynamite. This episode of Reading with Your Kids is brought to you by Atmosphere Press. Have you been dreaming about publishing a children's book, one that sparks imagination, creates bedtime memories, and maybe even becomes part of a family's story for years to come? The truth is, great ideas deserve more than a file sitting on your laptop. They deserve to become real books, beautifully designed, professionally published, and ready to reach young readers everywhere. At Atmosphere Press, you get expert guidance through every step of the journey, from editing and illustration to design, distribution, and marketing. So your book doesn't just get published, it gets positioned for success. Whether it's your first picture book, a middle grade adventure, or the story you've been carrying for years, now's the time to bring it to life. Visit atmospherepress.com to send in your manuscript and see what your book could become. That's atmospherepress.com, where your book can go above and beyond even your wildest dreams. Join us right now from the beautiful state of Minnesota, which is still waiting for spring to be sprung, just like we are here in Boston. Our guest is here to celebrate her new picture book. It's called We Are Mighty. Please welcome to the show the mighty Sharon McMahon. Sharon, how are you?
I'm so great. I'm so happy to be with you. Thanks for inviting me.
Before we start, I have to let you know, folks, we published over 2,400 episodes of Reading with Your Kids. Most of them have been done on Zoom, so I've been able to look into folks' spaces. I am looking in at the most impressive bookcase background that I've seen on a Zoom screen. It is incredible. How many, can you have a guess of how many books you have there in your home bookcase?
Well, yeah, that's a very high compliment. First of all, thank you. I would estimate it's a couple thousand, maybe 1,500 books.
Mm-hmm.
But it's approximately 20-foot long, probably 10 feet high, custom bookcase that's almost entirely full. A few of the shelves have like little, pictures and trinkets and doodads and things like that. But, it's pretty packed with books. I'm pretty, fortunate to have such a lovely book collection.
Yeah. And Sharon was telling me that she's read all of the books in the bookcase. So that's mighty impressive.
Thank you. Yeah. I love what you do so much. And I grew up being read to by a mother who loved to read. Mm-hmm. And this is the result, right?
Yes.
Like not everybody will have a book collection this impressive, but I don't think you get here. I don't think you get to a book collection like this if you are not read to as a child.
I love that you bring that up, and we are going to talk and celebrate We Are Mighty, but this is something in one of the very first episodes of Reading with Your Kids, we had LeVar Burton on, and I asked him where his love of literacy came from, and he just basically said what you said. My mom. My mom read to me all the time, and if she wasn't reading to me, she was reading a newspaper, she was modeling that reading, and I think it's so very important nowadays because we're hearing statistics of 40% or more of kids are not reading on grade level right now throughout the United States. That's shocking.
It is. And, I've been a longtime teacher. I didn't teach elementary school, so I don't have as much background knowledge as of reading pedagogy as a younger grade teacher would. But I can tell you as a secondary school teacher, the challenge of teaching content subjects with children who can't read at grade level, it's challenging to get children to read and understand the Constitution if they can't read at a 10th grade level.
Right.
So it's a big systemic problem. And one of the easiest ways that you can combat this in your own children and combat it in society writ large is by making sure that your kids have access to books. They see you reading books, and that you read to them. My mom read to me all of the time, every day. Sometimes she'd read aloud for, an hour or more each day to us. But she also gave us great access to the library. And so the library was a very fun place for me. I grew up a block and a half from a branch library that didn't have amazing hours, but when it was open, I was there. And then when I got to be older, my mom would let me take the bus to the main library downtown. And her rule was always, you don't bring home more books than you can carry. So I would bring, a backpack and a tote bag, and, as long as I could schlep it home, then, and return them on time, then then I could just bring home as many as I wanted. And the library was such an incredible part of my upbringing. I would not be who I am today without regular access. And I mean like almost weekly access to the library.
Yeah. And libraries nowadays are so much more than just a storage place for books. They're where you might see a magic show, you might meet an author, learn how to use technology, all sorts of fantastic. Public libraries absolutely deserve our support.
Totally agree. I still go to the library, even with a book collection like the one you pointed out. I still love the library. I still take my own children to the library. I donate to the library. I vote for candidates that support the library. The libraries are the most democratic of institutions. They have, everyone has equal access to the same information at a library. We can't say that about schools because we know that a school in one location may not be as good as a school at another location, just based on some of the resources that they have. Not everybody has equal access to higher education. Not everybody has equal access to the same quality universities, for example. But everybody has access to basically the entirety of human knowledge at the library. And what an incredible, truly in my mind, one of humanity's best inventions is the public library.
Yeah. So let's talk about We Are Mighty. I understand we're meeting 12 really cool people from American history.
Mm. Yeah. I mean, I wrote a book for adults called The Small and the Mighty. And one of the things that I kept hearing from parents over and over was they loved the stories in The Small and the Mighty, and they wished they could share them with their children. And even though my book for adults doesn't have content that is necessarily objectionable in the sense that it's, R-rated, nevertheless, some of the topics and some of the, how convoluted some of the stories can become, interwoven, time jumps, etc. It can be a little bit more difficult to share that with, with the child age 4 to 8, for example. So not only did I want to bring some of the characters from my book for adults to children, I also wanted to introduce some new characters that weren't in my previous book. And my hope is that children will learn about people they haven't learned about before, but also that they will see that being mighty is not something that is only for the wealthy, only for the presidents, only for the people who hold the highest, elected office or who are the most famous in their lifetime. They're not just the pop stars and the NBA players, that they have access to being mighty in their own way, just like the people in this book.
I really love that. I was sharing with Sharon before we hit record that a church in Mankato, Minnesota invited me to go out and present my educational magic show. And the last probably 20, 25 years of my show, I really focused on inspiring kids to understand that the little actions that they take every single day can make such a difference in the lives of the people around them and really make the world a better place.
I love that because that's something that's available to everyone. That's something that's available. I talk about this in the book too, the concept of doing the next needed thing. That's available to kindergartners. That's available to 85-year-olds. That's not dependent on that's not dependent on whether or not your parents have a lot of resources. That's not dependent on, any external factors. Each one of us can do the next needed thing. And that's going to look different for each of us depending on our position in life and life stage. But it's a concept that we can teach to young children and something they can carry with them all the way up into retirement and beyond.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about some of the people we're going to meet. I'm on your website, and there's some great art that I'm assuming is from the book. And there's an illustration of somebody that I think is named Septima Clark.
Yes.
Tell us a little bit about this person.
Yes. Well, the illustrations, first of all, are absolutely stunning. I can take no credit for them. The illustrations are done by an award-winning illustrator named Susanna Chapman, who really brings these characters to life. But Septima Clark is a woman who was born in 1898. She's born in South Carolina. And she has a very challenging life as a young woman. She gets married, has a baby, the baby dies. She feels, like shut out of many of life's opportunities. She's a Black woman in the segregated South and does not have the same access to education and literacy and career opportunities as other people might. And eventually she becomes a teacher. And Septima, later on in her career, goes on to work at an institution that is very, very integral in the civil rights movement called Highlander Folk School. And this is where she teaches people who become the giants of the civil rights movement. At Highlander Folk School, she teaches Rosa Parks. Wow. She teaches Rosa Parks before Rosa Parks becomes a household name. In fact, the Montgomery bus boycott happens not long after Rosa Parks leaves Highlander Folk School. Wow. When Septima gets to be an old woman, which is how you see her depicted in the book, she's an older woman. Somebody asks her, what have you learned? What have you learned throughout your career? And her story is much longer, of course, than we have time to tell today. But one of the things that she says, which I think is, a lesson for all of us today, frankly, a lesson a lot of adults need to learn, which is this concept that I can work with my enemies, because they might have a change of heart at any moment. And that was something that Septima experienced firsthand. She had to work with people that had previously objected to her as a Black teacher, that had previously objected to her work as a civil rights organizer. She has to learn to work with people with whom she disagreed. Now, there is a line here. It doesn't mean give people who, give bad people access to your bank account and invite them to spend the night at your house and, be best friends with them. It means work with them for the betterment of your entire community in a way that benefits everybody. And I think the bigger lesson that I think is important to take away here is that if you don't show your enemies the light, who is going to? They're just going to keep on doing the wrong thing. If you are not willing to turn on the light for them, who will be? So she's just such a remarkable woman for such a huge variety of ways. But I love her heart as a teacher, and I love her message to all of us.
Yeah. Boy, talk about that certainly is a message that we need yesterday.
Wouldn't you like to fly that on a airplane, with one of those airplanes that has a message that's being pulled behind it? Wouldn't you like to fly that over Washington DC? Everybody is get it together, Congress. Let's actually do some good for the American people here. It doesn't matter who you voted for. I think we can all agree, improvements need to be made, right? This is not going particularly well.
Yeah.
We all need to learn to work together for the betterment of our communities, not because it's personally gratifying, not because we don't need to all braid each other's hair at the end of the day, where people will disagree with each other. But ultimately, when we refuse to work with people with whom we disagree, it is children who suffer. It is the children with the least amount of political and economic power who are the most vulnerable among us, among the most vulnerable. And ultimately, it is children who pay the price for adults who refuse to work together.
Yeah, absolutely. And, I really wish that someone could braid my hair, but we don't. Where did the inspiration, not only for the picture book, but also for your adult book, come from?
One of the things that I kept hearing from people before I started writing this book, my book for adults took me 3 years to research and write. One of the things that I kept hearing from people is, number one, that they feel like nothing they do matters. That they're not billionaires. They're never going to be president. They don't even want to be president. Being president seems like a terrible job, frankly. I don't want a 24-hour cable news station devoted to hating me. It doesn't matter which party you're in. One of them's going to.
Right.
You know what I mean? That sounds terrible. I'd rather just eat cookies with my dog than watch 24/7 coverage about how terrible I am. Being president is, it's not something most people aspire to. And so consequently, it feels like our ability to matter in the world is judged by how powerful we are in the political sphere. It's judged by how wealthy we are. It's judged by how large of an audience we have. It's judged by, how many things we've invented. People feel like I'll never be Thomas Edison. I'm never going to be, Katherine Johnson calculating the trajectory of Apollo around the moon. These are things that I'm never going to do. I work in an insurance office. I'm a stay-at-home parent. So it's very easy for humans, especially in the day of social media, where we have easy access to all the things we are not doing. We have easy access to all of our shortcomings. I'm not going to that party. I don't look like that. I don't have those friends. It's very easy to compare oneself to all of the ways in which you're falling short. I kept hearing from people that they just had very little faith that what they did and who they were mattered. And over, history shows us that some of the biggest, most impactful changes in not just U.S. history, but in world history, were carried out by people without some grand plan, without 4 years of elected office, without access to the levers of power, without fame in their lifetime, people who just kept doing the next needed thing, who just kept putting one foot in front of the other. And I think when you read both The Small and the Mighty and We Are Mighty, you can see exactly how that is true. And, that was really part of the genesis for some of my writing work.
Yeah. That message is so very important. Do the next needed thing. Just taking a walk through the neighborhood, any neighborhood, and, the next needed thing. Well, maybe pick up that bag, that fast food bag that someone threw out the window. Maybe help that lady who's struggling with some groceries up the stairs. These are things that used to happen more often, I think, when I was young. But again, I'm almost 100, so we're talking a very long time ago. But it seems like, we've went through a phase where kids are like, don't talk to anybody, kind of, and kids are always supervised. Yeah, don't, and they always have an adult around telling them what to do next and how to do it. And so, boy, have we allowed kids to be able to see what the next needed thing is?
I think it's a really great question, and a question we need to be asking ourselves as parents, as educators, as community members. I think you're absolutely right that in a desire to protect children, which is admirable and good, that in some ways the pendulum has swung so far away from being community minded. It has swung into an extreme amount of individuality and independence away from our communities. And I do think the research and some of the data that's coming out now shows that that is actually a very harmful way to live one's life. It's a way to develop anxiety. It's a way to feel like you're not an integral part of the community. It's a way to feel like what I do never matters. This is not to romanticize the past as though everything that happened in the past was good and today is bad. I don't feel that way. But if you think about, in colonial America, even in a really small town, like obviously Boston started somewhere, even though it grew to become a very important city, people who were, blacksmiths or bakers or, rope makers, they felt like, and they were important members of the community. Even if on the world stage, they were not George Washington, even if on the world stage, they're not, Patrick Henry or Paul Revere, they had the opportunity to feel like who they were mattered in life because they did matter. And I think one of the challenges that we have as parents and caregivers and educators now is this amount of supervision and hyper individualism that we have sort of perhaps overcorrected for has given children this sense of anxiety that nothing I do matters. I'm not anybody that matters. I'm never going to be playing in the Super Bowl or singing at the Super Bowl halftime show. That's just not in the cards for me. And so consequently, why should I even care?
Yeah.
That's actually a really dangerous place for humans to be. It's not just bad for your mental health. It's bad for humanity, for humans to feel that way.
Yeah. As you were, and please let me know if I'm crazy thinking this, but as you were saying that, the first thing that flashed into my mind is, you get that person, I'm not going to play the Super Bowl. I'm not going to sing, at Carnegie Hall. Nothing I do is going to amount to anything. So maybe I go shoot up a school. Maybe I drive a car into a parade.
It is a very destructive mindset to feel so completely disaffected that you don't think that anything you do matters. And so consequently, because the human need to matter is so intrinsic in who we are, like we are hardwired to want to matter. That is just every single person wants that. If we never feel like we matter to our communities, it sets us up for a dangerous, slippery slope in which some people will feel like, well, if I can't matter in this way, then I'm going to figure out a way to matter to people. At least somebody will know my name. And, the research does demonstrate that people who carry out acts of mass violence do have a tendency to have very few social connections.
Mm-hmm.
They have very few opportunities to feel as though they matter. And so this is a much bigger problem than just parents being like, of course you matter.
Mm-hmm.
Of course you matter. You matter to me. I love you. Of course parents are saying, everyone listening to this podcast is saying that to their children. I can promise you that they love their kids. They tell their kids that they want their kids to know they matter to them. But people need to matter to a bigger community. They need to matter to the world in some way, more than just their family of origin. And when they don't have those social connections, that's a dangerous place, especially for young men, to be. Mm-hmm. So, do I think that We Are Mighty is going to solve all of society's problems? Absolutely not. But I do think it brings up just a larger question that, a larger issue that we need to be pondering as parents, caregivers, and teachers is ways in which you matter to the community, mm-hmm. and looking for ways to give children agency over how they can matter to the community more than just your mom loves you.
Right.
Yeah.
One of the things that came into my mind is, as you're saying, we all tell our kids we love them, that they matter to us, and that's certainly something that I did. But one of the things I noticed when my kids were young and I would volunteer to, oh, sure, I have a minivan, pile the kids in and we'll drive. I was able to help some of my kids' friends feel seen and matter. How can we, as parents, best do that, do you think?
Mm. Yeah, I love that question too. There's a woman whose name is Dr. Jillian Peterson, who runs an organization called the Violence Project, and she actually studies things related to mass acts of violence. And this does directly relate to your question. But one of the things that they have studied is people who planned to carry out horrible acts and were stopped. They were stopped short by some act. And there's a well-known story in this circle about a teenage boy who had everything all planned out to carry out a school shooting. Like, he had already obtained all the things, planned to do it the next day. I believe it was his birthday on the day that he was going to do this. And he said that one of his friends invited him to their house, and his friend's mother, baked him a pie for his birthday. And in that moment, he felt like he mattered to someone, that somebody cared enough to bake him a pie for his birthday, and that they went to trouble to bake him a pie for his birthday. Now, that's not to say that the solution for all of society's ills is baking children desserts. But as much as we can do, not just for our own children, but for our children's friends, the children down the street, your friends' children, your friends' children, even if your children are not directly friends with them, feeling like there is another adult who notices them, who even just says, I heard it was your birthday last week. How was the party? That's so great. That's so great. What did you do to celebrate? Even just remembering small details of somebody's life makes them feel like, we have all encountered an adult, say your dental hygienist, who was like, whatever happened to such and such? And it's been like a year since you've seen them. Maybe they made a note in their ear chart, or maybe they have a great memory. But it's always impressive to us when somebody makes us feel like we matter. And that's something, children are actually relatively easy to work with in that regard. You can actually make a child feel like they matter in a million small ways. Yeah. So it could be as simple as putting your children's friends' birthdays in your phone. And you don't even have to buy them a gift, but just saying, your birthday's coming up. You're going to be 12. You're going to be 7. What are you doing to celebrate? It can be something that costs you no dollars. And just even remembering something small helps people feel like they matter to you.
Love it. Love it. Hey, tell us one other person we're going to meet in We Are Mighty, please.
One of the people that I absolutely love in this book is a woman named Maria de Lopez. Have you ever heard of her from history?
No, I
No.
know a lot of Marias.
Yeah.
I know a lot of Lopez, but I don't think I know this one.
Most people haven't. Most people have never heard of her. And she actually was one of the first women who was a professor at UCLA, which of course is a very, very large college. She was one of the first women to ever teach there. But she was also notably one of the first women in the United States to campaign for women's suffrage in Spanish. And she helped women gain the right to vote in California, where she lived. But one of the stories that I tell about her as in the book is she feels like, this is around the time, this is before the 19th Amendment is passed. This is during World War I. She feels like everything I'm doing is not enough. I'm writing articles for the newspapers. I'm taking my car out and going to the events, and I'm, like, Californians can vote, but the whole country cannot. The 19th Amendment passes after some states have granted suffrage to women. And she feels like she wants to do more. And so she decides, you know what I could do? Because I have a car, which, by the way, it was very unusual for single women to have cars during like the 19-teens. It was unusual for women to drive, period. Most people didn't have cars, let alone women without husbands. They certainly didn't have cars, but she did. She had a car. So she was like, I can drive. I could use my driving skills to drive an ambulance in France during World War I. And over, she applies to do these jobs for the war, and people keep telling her no. And she keeps asking, why? Why can't I drive an ambulance in France? Like, because I'm a girl? Would you rather have no help at all? And initially that was the answer. Yes, we'd rather have nobody. And eventually that does change. She eventually is sent to France as an ambulance driver for the Red Cross. And shortly after arriving in France, ends up saving a whole bunch of men from a burning building, gets a commendation from the French government, comes home, sails home to America, and, her name's on a medal. She gets all of these special accolades in the newspaper. And so what she was doing, they're reporting on her on the front page of Los Angeles newspapers. That's how well known she was at the time. And yet nobody knows her name. She's in nobody's textbooks. She's not in any, as far as I'm aware, there aren't any statues to her. There's a plaque on her family home in Southern California. But one of the reasons stories like this are lost to history is because women like her, she did eventually marry, but she never had children. She does not have any descendants to keep her papers, to donate her papers to a university, to donate her belongings to anybody, to keep her memory alive. And so when she dies in 1977, there's nothing more than an obituary that's 2 inches long in the newspaper that just says, the funeral service is going to be held at such and such time. There's no accounting of everything that she accomplished, the lives that she saved and the votes that she helped to win, and, all of the amazing, the Spanish text that she translated into English and vice versa. None of that is ever fully accounted for. And stories like her deserve to be told and remembered.
Yeah. How did you discover Maria?
I discovered Maria when I saw her name mentioned in another book, or in another text that I was reading when I was researching women's suffrage. I was researching the suffrage movement and saw her name, and it mentioned that Maria de Lopez had a car, and that sort of like perked up my little, spidey senses of like, it was so unusual for women to have a car. Who was this woman who had a car and and primarily, her career at UCLA, she taught Spanish, and she worked as a Spanish translator, and her parents were from Mexico, and, came to the United States. Her father was a blacksmith. She actually lived on the grounds of the San Gabriel Mission in Southern California. So I saw her name, and the fact that she had a car made me remember her name. And then I started researching her more. And I dug into Maria for quite a long time. But the car was the standout detail for me.
Yeah. I love that. What a great thing to talk to our kids about, paying attention to the folks in the background.
Mm-hmm.
One of the things that I remember speaking to a young woman who came, and I gave her an opportunity one summer to come and sing during my show. She's very incredibly talented, went on to work on Broadway. And one of the things when she asked me for advice was, hey, how can I, I'm like, well, everybody's teaching you how to be in the spotlight. I said, why don't you, when you're watching a show, whether it's on TV or live or whatever, look at what the people in the background are, the people who are adding to the whole scene.
Yeah.
And, I think, this is obviously you discovered Maria because you paid attention to somebody in the background. And, wow. And I guess that's kind of what we're talking about, encouraging our parents to pay attention to the kids in the background of your kids' lives.
Yeah, but such a great way to connect the dots, I think, is we think today somebody in the background, if you're a video game connoisseur, you would call them, like an NPC, a non-player character or something along those lines, where like they're not one of the characters that you control. They're just in the background of the video game. It's easy for kids to feel like, and in fact, that's an insult that children today call each other. Stop being such an NPC. Mental note, if you didn't know that before.
I did not know that. I'm really glad you were here. I'm really glad you translated that voluntarily, because I didn't know how I was going to ask you.
And stop being an NPC. So many of the people that I love to write about would today be in that category. And yet there's no denying the impact they had on their communities, and by extension on tens of thousands of other lives that they never even knew that they impacted. Every single person that Maria taught at UCLA then goes on to impact other people. We all know hundreds of people. And, when we know things, we can share things with other people. So the number of people that Maria potentially impacted is in the tens of thousands, if not more. And yet, she is, according to the history books, a total NPC, but shouldn't be. And that's I just think an important thing to remember is that nobody actually is just a background character in the world. It might look like in this one specific frame, it might look like, oh, she's just there in the back with her little hat and she's sitting on top of her car hood. Might be how it seems, but we should make an effort to help our children and the children in our communities feel like they're more than that.
Yeah. Let's tell everybody where they can go to find out more about We Are Mighty and find out more about you.
Thank you. Yeah, you can visit my website, SharonMcMahon.com. There's info about the book there, but the book is available everywhere you buy children's books, your local bookseller, if you want to buy it on bookshop.org and support local bookstores, but it's also available on all the big chain bookstores and online bookstores.
And let's remember, it's available in your public library, and if it's not there, you can very nicely ask
them to order it.
Yeah.
It's also being published in Spanish. Being published in Spanish. The Spanish name is Somos Poderosos. And that will come out in June of 2026, the Spanish edition.
We've had a really great time speaking to the author of We Are Mighty. It's a new picture book from our guest, New York Times bestselling author, Sharon McMahon. Hey, Sharon, thanks for being on Reading with Your Kids.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Hey, this episode of Reading with Your Kids is brought to you by AspireDrinks.com. Hey, I have a quick question for you. Have you ever wanted a little extra energy, but not the kind that makes your heart race or leaves you crashing an hour later? Well, that's exactly why I want to tell you about Aspire Drinks. You'll find them at AspireDrinks.com. Aspire calls itself a healthy energy drink, and honestly, that description really fits. Instead of loading you up with sugar or extreme caffeine, Aspire delivers a gentle, steady boost with 80 milligrams of natural caffeine from green tea and guarana. That's about half the caffeine of most energy drinks, enough to help you stay focused without the jitters or the crash. It's also zero sugar, 0 calories, and 0 artificial additives, which makes it a great choice for parents, teachers, and anyone trying to make healthier choices while still getting things done. And get this, it actually tastes great, light, crisp, and lightly sparkling, with flavors like sweet cherry, raspberry acai, mango lemonade. That's what I love. No heavy aftertaste and easy on the stomach. Aspire is packed with B and C vitamins, biotin, and ginger. And it's vegan, gluten-free, keto-friendly, really designed for real life. And just for Reading with Your Kids listeners, you can get an exclusive discount of 20% off. That's the highest discount available when you shop at aspiredrinks.com and use our promo code READ. That's READ at aspiredrinks.com. Healthy energy done right. Hey, my friends, I have a super idea you are going to love. How about this weekend, turn your backyard cookout into a storybook celebration? Fire up the grill, crack open a few of your favorite picture books, and serve up Big Fork Brand's legendary bacon sausage. Made with nitrate-free bacon and premium pork, it's juicy, smoky, and unforgettable. Top it off with Big Fork's spicy Chicago fire sauce, and you've got a meal as bold as the characters in your favorite bedtime tale. Get 20% off your order using the promo code READ at bigforkbrands.com. That's bigforkbrands.com. Promo code READ to get 20% off, because nothing brings families together like great food, great books, and a whole lot of flavor. Big Fork Brands. Read, grill, repeat. Join us right now from the beautiful state of Arizona. Our guest is here today to celebrate her children's book. It's called Maya's Tiny Warriors. Please welcome to the show, Mansi Vigesna. Hey, Mansi, how are you?
Hello, I'm good, thank you. How are you?
I'm wonderful. Thank you so much for being on the podcast.
Thank you so much for the opportunity. I'd love to talk about my book.
So let's jump right into it. Who's Maya and who are her tiny warriors?
Okay, so Maya is the main character in my book, and pretty much she falls sick the first day of school. And as she's thinking of what she's missing at school and what a terrible day she's having, we realize that there are tiny warriors in her body, which are her immune cells. And they're battling to keep Maya safe. And if you read into the end of the book, you'll understand what happens and how the battle turns out.
You know, probably a lot of kids before COVID came in and disrupted the world, I bet you a lot of people didn't think about their immune system or I can't even say it. But now that, we had this pandemic that basically locked most of the world up for a year or two, hopefully we're a little bit more about, our immune systems and how to keep them healthy.
That's true. Yeah, I think I've seen in recent years, immunology has definitely been on the rise, especially when I was younger. I feel like there wasn't a lot of information about the immune system out there, especially when I used to get sick a lot. It's just, I never really understood what was happening inside my body and what those immune cells were that were battling the flu or any other illness. But now I definitely think more research is happening and people are starting to focus on the immune system and how we can prevent things like COVID or other illnesses instead of just trying to think of the side effects.
Yeah. Now, you mentioned when you were younger, no offense, I'm almost 100. It hasn't been that long since you were younger. You're currently in high school. Am I right about that?
Yes, I'm a senior. I'm 17 years old.
Wow. So where did this idea that I want to write a kid's book, because everybody knows they're, seniors in high school getting ready for college. You have so much time on your hands.
Yeah, so I think when I was little, I've always been fascinated with books. So children's books, I love children's books. And recently, a couple years ago, 2-ish years ago, I was introduced to the idea of the immune system at a seminar I attended. And I was able to do some research on immunology at Mayo Clinic. So when I realized that my own immune system is learning how to differentiate between my own cells versus germs or bacteria, I really wanted to put this information out there and teach other people about this aha moment I had about the immune system. So I thought, what better way to do that than through what I've grown up learning about or what I've grown up reading, and that's children's books.
Well, I have to say, 2 years ago, that would have put you as a sophomore.
Mm-hmm.
And I am guessing that getting invited to a conference on immunology was a pretty prestigious thing. You must really stand out in your studies.
I was really interested in biology, so this was a summer program that I was able to attend at U Chicago. So through that was a seminar I attended, like learning about the immune system. But I think at that moment, I was just super interested in biology, and there was nothing stopping me from trying to learn more about it.
You mentioned that aha moment. Do you remember specifically, was there one thing that kind of said, wow, this is like kind of mind-exploding stuff?
I do think so. It was at the seminar, and I was listening to the researcher talk about the immune system, and they mentioned the thymus, and it's an organ that's kind of higher than your lungs. It's around your neck region, and it's where all of your T cells develop. So all of your immune system cells, that's partially where most of it develops. And I had never known that the thymus existed. And that was kind of the moment where I was like, there's a whole other world of biological systems out there that I'm not sure about. So that was kind of the aha moment that propelled me to continue focusing on immunology and that type of science.
Yeah. One of the things that was kind of frustrating to me during COVID was the fact that, we're talking about wearing masks and getting vaccines, but I didn't hear a lot of people, especially the so-called experts, talking to people about doing things that can help strengthen your immune system, like getting lots of sunshine and maybe taking some supplements that can help, and exercising. What did you notice that, or were you too busy being a sophomore in high school to notice?
Well, I was busy being a sophomore in high school, but I think other than that, I did notice that, when I was younger, when I used to get sick a lot, I did use, I tried to strengthen my immune system. So I used to gargle with turmeric, and I feel like there's not that much emphasis right now on these preventative measures that we can take, like taking your D vitamin, implementing more spices in your meals, or going on a walk, and all of those things that you mentioned. I think there can definitely be more focus on that instead of just thinking of the medicines that we can use after we get sick. So trying to focus on those types of measures would definitely help with your health in the long run, I believe.
Yeah. What's the biggest message that you want kids to take away and families to take away after they're reading Maya's Tiny Warriors?
I want them to come away with the idea that their body will always be there for them, or that their immune system is battling to keep them safe. And I want them to also be inspired by my story. Like, if they learn about me or that I was able to write a book at this age, I also want anybody who's interested to know that it's never too early to get started. And so they can continue learning about the science, or they can write books, or whatever they want to do, just to follow their passions. And it's always important to keep discovering more about your own body. And I think this book would allow children to start delving into what makes them them.
Yeah. You mentioned a couple of times when you were younger, you got sick a lot. Was there one specific thing that, one big illness that you had to battle, or was it just a lot of the little typical childhood ailments that people get?
A lot of just fevers and headaches, but it was to the point where I was going to the doctor twice a month and I was constantly on antibiotics. And it's not like there was a big illness or anything. I just feel that it may have hindered some of my abilities to go to school every day. And it wasn't terribly big, but it still kind of led into my interest in biology, which is why I think it's important as well.
Yeah. Well, I'm very impressed that not only, you got this interest, but that with a lot of people who are dealing with a lot of adversity, they kind of say, oh, woe is me, poor me, and why is it happening to me? And instead you said, okay, I'm kind of sick and tired of being sick and tired, so what can I do to help strengthen my immune system?
That's true. And I think a lot of that also came with seeing my physician at the time, just like really inspired me to also follow that route. And he also mentioned a lot of the preventative medicines, like taking D vitamins. So I think that also helped in just like researching online what I could do to help my immune system. My mom was definitely the one who did a lot of that research, but taking part in that process, I was able to start taking charge of my health instead of just waiting on the sidelines.
Yeah, good for you. Good for you. Now, you mentioned that you're a senior in high school. What's next for you? What do you hope to do in college, in life, and all that other stuff?
I definitely want to go into some sort of STEM major, but I also want to follow a communications or writing minor because I do believe that science communication is really important because there's so many of these complicated topics about our human body or climate change or honestly anything in the world that we should be able to communicate to the public so that they'll understand and that they'll care about these topics. So I definitely do think that anything in the STEM field, whether it be a physician or researcher, I'd want to embody that role, but I also want to bring that science to the public and allow them to see the wonders that exist.
Well, I have a feeling that we're going to see a lot of you in the future. So I'm honored that you're joining me on the podcast because in a couple of years, I'm going to be able to say, she was on my podcast and now she's a big star. So, hey, can you tell everybody where we can go to find out more about Maya's Tiny Warriors and also find out more about you, please?
Of course. My website, it's mansikv.com, spelled MANASIKV.com. And I also have an Instagram and also same thing, MANASIKV_. And other than that, I do believe if you search up my name, that a lot of the other links will appear as well, including the book tour for my book, which should also be linked on my website, and just some other news articles or anything that talk about me and my book.
We've had a really fun time speaking to the author of Maya's Tiny Warriors. Our guest has been the author, Mansi Vigesna. Hey, Mansi, thanks for being with us.
Thank you so much as well. It was great.
We hope you've enjoyed this episode of Reading with Your Kids. Well, join us for the next exciting episode of the show. If this episode made you smile or gave you something to think about, please consider sharing a link to the show with someone you love. Write a 5-star review and, of course, subscribe to the show wherever you find your favorite shows. I want to thank the folks who made today's show so wonderful, starting with our guest, Sharon McMahon. Please be sure to check out We Are Mighty. Also want to thank Mansi Vigesna. Please be sure to check out Maya's Little Warriors. Want to thank my team, Chris Doherty, Daylene Alvita. Want to thank my beautiful wife for all the support she gives me. Most of all, we all want to thank you. Thank you so very much for taking the time to join us today. And as always, thank you so very much for taking the time to make the world a better place. And you do that every single time you read with your kids. I'll be looking for you in the next episode of Reading with Your Kids.
laughter abound. From Reedville streets to the ocean wide, families reading side by side. Every page is a magic ride. Open a book and come inside. Different voices, different lands, different dreams and different plans, but every child understands love grows stronger hand in hand. Read it with your kids tonight. Turn a little moments bright. One more story, one more smile, making memories all the while. Reading with your kids each day helps your family find its way. Across the world we all believe books can help us